They used to call me a quiet man. I took that as a compliment. In my world, quiet meant strong, and strong meant dependable. My father never raised his voice. Not once. Even when life was unkind, he'd stare out the window with his jaw clenched and his shoulders like iron. And that was his way of saying everything was fine. I learned that language early, the language of silence. You don't cry. You don't complain. You don't say you're tired. You just keep building, fixing, carrying, and nodding. People will tell you you're reliable, and you'll mistake that for being loved. My name is James, 75 years old, and my heart gave out before my voice ever did. They told me my heart was failing years ago, but I pretended not to hear it. I wasn't deaf. I just didn't want the words to land. The doctor said I had to slow down, manage stress, express emotion. He said my blood pressure was a warning. I nodded, the way I always did, and went back to work the next morning. I thought emotion was a kind of weakness, something that chipped away at the discipline. A man needed to survive. I used to watch my wife cry during movies, and I'd pat her hand, awkwardly, as if her tears were a foreign language I had no translator for. She would ask me, "Don't you feel anything, James?" And I'd smile and say, "Of course I do." Then change the subject. That's how I handled everything, by pretending it was already handled. The truth is, I did feel things. I just never knew where to put them. When I was angry, I worked. When I was scared, I fixed things around the house. When I was sad, I cut the grass. There's something comforting about the noise of machines. They drown out the noise inside your head. The problem is, when you keep burying emotions under work, the pile doesn't go away. It just gets heavier. Every unspoken word sits in your chest like a stone. I built a wall of them, brick by brick, year after year, until the wall became a part of me. People said I was patient. What they didn't see was the strain of holding everything back. I remember the day my wife, Ellen, packed a small bag. She wasn't leaving me. Not permanently, just a few days at her sister's place. She said, "James, I can't breathe in this house anymore. You never talk. You never fight. You're not here even when you're sitting right next to me." I didn't stop her. I didn't argue. I said, "Take your time." I told myself it was noble not to fight. What it really was fear. I was terrified of saying the wrong thing, of breaking something I didn't know how to fix. So I stayed silent. And she walked out the door carrying every word I should have said. When she came back, she looked smaller, as if the weight had shifted. We never spoke about it. We slipped back into routine, me at work, her tending the garden, the two of us orbiting each other in polite circles. Years later, when she got sick, she told me she wished we had talked more. I remember holding her hand in the hospital, trying to push a lifetime of unsaid things through the grip of my fingers. I thought she understood, that she could read the meaning there. Maybe she did. Maybe she was tired of guessing. When she died, the house became impossibly quiet. And for the first time I realized that silence can echo loud enough to break you. After the funeral, people came and went. Neighbors brought food. Family called. I said all the right words. "I'm fine. Thank you. Just taking it one day at a time." They nodded, satisfied. That's what we all do. We accept polite lies because they keep the conversation short. Nights were the hardest. I would sit in my chair and feel my heart pounding like a fist against my ribs, as if it wanted out, as if it had been trying to speak for decades and finally had to make noise to be heard. I ignored it. I told myself it was grief. I told myself it would pass. What passed, instead, was time. One morning I woke up with my chest heavy, like a thick hand pressing down. I couldn't catch my breath. It felt like drowning while sitting upright. They say a heart attack is sudden, but mine felt like a long argument finally reaching the end of patience. My son, Daniel, found me slumped on the kitchen floor. The coffee still warm on the counter. I remember his voice, panicked, saying, "Dad, stay with me." And for the first time, I wanted to answer, to really answer, but the words were stuck, trapped somewhere between my mind and my mouth. The ambulance ride was a blur of lights and guilt. They put a stent in, and they told me I was lucky. Lucky. The word tasted strange. It didn't feel like luck. It felt like a warning that came too late. I spent days in a hospital bed listening to the beep of machines doing what my body no longer did reliably. The nurses were kind, but I could tell they pitied me. They'd ask, "How are you feeling today, Mr. Miller?" And I'd say, "Fine," because that's what I've always said. Fine? It's such a small word, such a convenient lie. It fits anywhere, smooth as a coin, but it buys nothing. Lying there, I started thinking about all the conversations I avoided. My father's funeral, when my mother cried and I patted her back instead of holding her. My son's teenage years, when he needed advice, and I handed him money instead. Ellen's sickness, when she needed my voice and I gave her silence. I see now that I mistook control for love, composure for care. I was afraid that if I opened my mouth, all the anger and sadness I'd hidden would pour out and drown everyone around me. But emotion doesn't disappear just because you lock it away. It leaks out in tone, in distance, in the way people stop trying to reach you. I think men of my generation were trained like soldiers, even if we never went to war. You keep marching. You don't complain about blisters. You don't stop for water until someone tells you to. But life isn't a battlefield, and families aren't troops to command. They need warmth, not orders. I spent too long trying to be the fortress, not realizing that walls keep love out just as effectively as they keep pain in. It's strange how much effort it takes to learn something so simple. Daniel visits sometimes. He brings his little boy, Sam, who runs around the hospital room like it's an adventure park. He climbs on the chair and hands me his toy car, and I feel something break open inside me, a small, painful tenderness I haven't felt in years. Daniel talks about work, about how busy things are. I hear my own voice in his tone. I see myself in his restraint. I want to tell him to stop, to rest, to speak when he's hurting. I want to say, "Don't be me." But the words line up in my throat and stall, just like always. So I reach out and hold his hand longer than necessary. He looks surprised. Then he squeezes back. Maybe he understands. Maybe it's a start. Sometimes, at night, when the hospital lights dim, I talk to Ellen, not out loud, just in my head. I tell her I'm sorry for mistaking quiet for peace. I tell her I finally understand what she meant when she said love needs sound. I imagine her smiling that small, patient smile she had when she wanted to forgive me, but wasn't sure if I'd let her. I hope she can hear me now that I'm finally learning to speak. Even if it's too late for conversation, people think dying happens all at once. It doesn't. It's a slow peeling away of the unnecessary. You shed the roles, the pride, the excuses, until what's left is just a person who wishes he'd been braver in small moments. If you're listening to this, and you're the kind of person who keeps everything inside because you think it makes you strong, please stop. Talk to someone. Cry if you have to. The body can only carry what the heart is willing to release. Every feeling you swallow has a price, and one day the bill comes due, often in the shape of a hospital bed. I am not ashamed anymore. I used to think emotion was a leak in the boat, something to patch up. Now I know it's the wind in the sails. Without it, you don't move. My heart may be failing, but for the first time, I'm learning how to use it. If there's one thing I've learned lying here, it's that words are medicine. You just have to take them in time.